Yes, please. Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Heather, and as always, I am reading with a vengeance, and as always, I hope you are as well. Today, I am doing a book tag. Hopefully, if this is uploaded, it is Tuesday. It is Book Tag Tuesday, and the tag I'm doing today is called the Let's Get Outside tag. This was originated by Sandy from Miss Reads a Lot, and I was tagged by the very lovely Shelley Swearingen. If you haven't already, hop on over and check out those videos. They're lovely ladies, and I love watching their booktube. So I thought the prompts in this one were unique and fun. So the prompts are actually books themselves, and then from that book is the question/prompt. So let's get started with the prompts. Prompt number 1 is the book Into Thin Air, which is John Krakauer's personal account of the May 1996 disaster on Mount Everest. The question is, what is one of your favorite books about or set in the outdoors? So this one is pretty easy. I've talked about this book before. I think I talked about this one as I did a video of 1-star reviews on my 5-star books. So my answer to this one is Life of Pi by Yann Martel. This is a very polar, as far as opinions are, book. There's a lot of people who love it and a lot of people who hate it. But this one, if you don't know already, follows Pi, and his father, his family, runs a zoo in, I believe, India, and then because of the political unrest, they are forced to move, and they move via ship with most of their animals across the Atlantic heading towards the United States. But before they get there, the ship sinks, and Pi survives in a lifeboat with a tiger, an orangutan, a hyena, and a zebra. I feel like there's one more animal that I'm missing. Anyways, and he is out at sea with these wild animals, and chaos ensues. And I absolutely love this story. I love how it's told. Oh, and I don't want to give any spoilers away, but I love how the ending leaves a little bit to the reader's imagination. And it's funny because the end is what a lot of people really dislike about this book. But I'll say no more. And I'm really pleased with how they did the movie. I was super hesitant to go out and watch the movie because I'm always afraid that with a book that I really, really love, they'll ruin it, but they didn't. They did a fantastic job with the movie. It's beautifully shot. So yeah, that's my answer for that one. So the next prompt is a book called Winterdance, and this is the story of Gary Paulsen running the Iditarod for the first time, even though he isn't particularly good at it. And the question is, do you have a hobby or skill that you keep attempting even if you are not particularly good at it? So my answer to this question is going to probably make me sound like a turd. No, because I don't really like doing anything I'm not good at or that I don't see potential of getting good at. Does that make me a bad person? Maybe. I don't know. I have attempted knitting and it's turned into an obsession of mine. I'm fairly good at it, and I'm almost as obsessive with knitting as I am with reading. I've gone into embroidery and punch needle. Punch needle, I guess, I'm not great at punch needle, but then again, I just don't do it as often as I do my other hobbies. Cooking, I'm a terrible cook. Thank God my husband is the cook in our family. I still attempt to do it, and I've never been good at it. I continue to attempt to do it because I feel bad about my husband doing all of the cooking all of the time. He's a saint because he continues to eat my cooking, even though I don't do it very often. But so yeah, was that an answer? The next prompt is the book Wild by Cheryl Strayed. And of course, this is the story of Cheryl Strayed hiking the PCT, Pacific Crest Trail, I believe, after the death of her mother. And the question is, recommend a book where the central theme is dealing with grief. Okay, so my recommendation on this is a book called The Dogs of Babel by Carolyn Parkhurst. So this follows Paul Iverson, who comes home one day and finds that his wife has died and she's in the backyard. The only witness is their beloved dog, Lorelei. And in the days following her death, Paul starts to notice some weird things around his house that lead him to believe that his wife's last day was not quite what it seems. Paul, who is a linguist by trade, he is determined to solve this strange mystery, but he can't do it alone, and he needs the help of his dog Lorelei, and he goes on this strange endeavor to teach Lorelei to speak. There's some disturbing aspects in this book, so full disclosure on that, and I'm a huge dog lover, so it did kind of get to me a little bit, but the story as a whole, in terms of how it explores grief, I thought was fascinating. And I'm always interested in stories where it also explores the relationship between humans and their pets or animals in general. Yeah, so that's my answer. Prompt number 4 is Into the Wild by Jon Krakauer. And of course, this is the tragic story of Chris McCandless, who goes off the grid to live in the wilderness of Alaska and does not make it. And the question is, does the idea of living off the grid or away from society appeal to you? 100% hard yes, especially the older I get. I have this vision of selling most of my belongings, buying an Airstream, hooking it to the back of my car, and just traveling around and never staying in one place for very long, and have my husband and my dogs, and that's it. Yes, I absolutely can see myself either living in a nomadic fashion, just moving from place to place, if not in the United States, in another country, or getting a remote cabin out in the woods somewhere very far away. To be fair, I do like the idea of running water, electricity, Wi-Fi. So it's got to be a balance for me. The next prompt is a book called A Walk in the Woods by Bill Bryson. And this is the story of Bill Bryson and his friend hiking the Appalachian Trail. And the question is, what is a book with a really interesting friendship? Most of the friendships I read about that I find the most interesting are friendships between people and animals. So I did a whole video on books for animal lovers. So I wanted to go a little bit outside the box on this one. And I'm going for a book called Lace by Shirley Conran. This book was published in 1982, so it's been a minute. It's not really talked about on BookTube. This was one of those kind of chick lit trash novels that was huge in the 80s. I was 13, I believe, when it came out, and I read it as a teenager, and I could not get enough of it. I read that book like I was starving and it was a candy bar. It's just the best kind of trash novel, and then they made a mini series, and it was fantastic. I picked this book because it follows 4 women who are very different women. They meet at like boarding school, and they become very close friends, and they get into shenanigans, and then something happens, and perhaps people around my generation will be reminded by a line that was made very famous at the time, and that line is, "Which one of you bitches is my mother?" So anyways, I thought that their friendship was a very interesting one because, like I said, they were very different. They come from very different backgrounds, different cultures, different countries, and they are bound over this one particular incident over many years. And I just wanted to throw this book out there just because it is so not a BookTube darling, but it's such a fun read. So if you're into that kind of thing, give it a go. The next prompt is a book called Adrift, and this is the story of Stephen Callahan's time lost at sea. And the prompt is, do you like water? I do. I will say, while I love to swim and I love to be at the beach and in the ocean, I do have a healthy fear of being eaten by sharks. At the same time, I'm super fascinated by sharks. So short answer is yes, I like water. The next prompt is a book called Hatchet, and this is the fictional story of a young boy who is in a plane crash while traveling to Alaska and has to survive with only a hatchet. The question is, what is your favorite survival story? This one's easy for me. It's always been a favorite. I probably watched the documentary that they made based on the book probably 15 years ago, and it's stuck with me, and it's called Touching the Void. And this is a story of Joe and Simon who go and scale a really big mountain. I can't remember the name of the mountain right now. They run into trouble, there's a really big storm, and something happens. And Simon has to make the terrible, terrible decision to cut the lifeline rope that attaches him to Joe in order to survive. And Simon shows up at the base camp days later saying that Joe has died. Joe didn't die. I believe he broke both of his legs. And it tells the story of his survival on this mountain, broken legs, in a storm, very little resources as far as food and water, and he makes it down the mountain. And it is harrowing and incredible and an amazing, amazing story of survival. And the next prompt is a perfect storm. This is the story of fishermen that were lost at sea during a huge storm. And the question is, do you like stormy weather? So I love the sound of stormy weather. I love the sound of thunder. I love seeing lightning. I don't like how it scares the crud out of my poor dogs. We turn into thunder buddies really quick, but I love the sound of storms. I don't like, obviously, the damage that they do. We've been very lucky here. We've maybe had a couple of bad storms where we lose power for a couple of days, and that is just not even anything compared to storms that happen in other parts of the country or other countries. So yeah, the sound of storms, yes, and that's about it. And finally, the last one is to tag some friends. So I will tag Danny from Danny's Book World, Sin over at Sin's Book Nook, and Ollie at Criminali. So if you're watching this, consider yourself tagged. If you are a booktuber and tag looks like fun to you, please consider yourself tagged. If you're not a booktuber and you're just a watcher, give me some of your own answers down below. I would love to hear them. If you've made it this far in the video, please give that like button a boop and perhaps a subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much, so much, so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.